Bluestone makes investment loans simple with competitive interest rates. Borrow up to 85% of the value of your investment property without paying lender's mortgage insurance, and no cap on existing investment portfolio size. Plus, personal Bluestone support from application to settlement. So don't wait to unlock your future. Bluestone, award-winning home loan solutions. Find out more at bluestone.com.au/investors. Lending criteria, T's and C's and fees apply. Credit provided by Permanent Custodians Limited, Australian Credit Licence 390183.
Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show, the podcast by investors for investors.
Good day, how you going? Phil Tarrant here, host of the Smart Property Investment Show. I hope you're well. If you've been tuning on to the Smart Property Investment Show recently, you'll of course be across all the discussions which are taking place here, but all over the media also, is just how rapidly changing and growing this property market is. And one of the big discussions is around, at this point in time, whether if you just buy well and you get the uplift of capital growth as an enabler for supporting ongoing portfolio development, rather than tinkering with the properties that you are buying. So the question is, do you need to renovate? Do you need to add value in this particular market when the market themselves, or the market itself, will do the heavy lifting in terms of increasing the value of your property? Horses for courses, there's going to be arguments for and there's going to be arguments against it. But for those people in a particular strategy, particular window of their buying opportunity, particular window of their property investment journey, they may be looking to realise greater value in the assets they have through renovation, and that can extend from just cosmetic reno with some carpet, some paint, and that sort of stuff, all the way through to something more significant. So we're going to get into this today. Joining me in the studio, Naomi Findlay. She's a renovation expert. We've asked her to come on the show to actually give us a real world view on whether or not you should be renovating in this market, and if you are, where and how you should be spending your bucks to get the most effective outcome. Naomi, how are you going? You well?
I am well. Thanks for having me on the show, Phil.
Now, it's good to see you again. And this question, you work doing renovations or renovating, consulting, and you get your hands dirty as well right across the nation. Is it worth renovating property in a market which is just going to go up in value inherently? What's the purpose for property investors?
You know what? It is such a great question, and it really depends on how much you want to juice or squeeze out of your property. Without doubt, not every property is right for renovating. I'm absolutely not one of those that believes that every single property needs renovating, because it's all realistically about whether you can add value or not. That being said, say there were two properties that you could add equal value to for renovating, you may have some owners that go, you know what, I do want the market to do the heavy lifting for me. I really don't care if I juice an extra 100K out of it or an extra 50K, then maybe renovating isn't for them. But for people that truly want to squeeze and wring every possible uplift of value adds to a property that they can, even in a lifting market, then yes, absolutely, you should be.
So the property investors you're chatting to right now, are they asking you that specific question, or is it more of about, hey, I've made a decision to renovate, how can I go about maximising the renovation most effectively? And what sort of renos are getting the best bang for your buck at the moment in terms of squeezing the most you can out of a property to get that uplift?
That's a really good question. If someone comes to me and says, I've decided to renovate and I want to know what's going to be my best return on investment, that's when I'd say to them, you actually need to take a step back. You need to work out before you make that decision to renovate what your return on investment would be. Because let's face it, renovating isn't for fairies. Renovating, I was just picking the paint from under my fingernails as you were doing the introduction, and I was worried you could see when you mentioned that I get my hands dirty. Renovating isn't unicorns and rainbows. Sometimes it's really hard work. Sometimes it's stress, and it's definitely time. So, there is an opportunity cost for people that are putting time into the renovation of their property. And so for me, you need to, before you go, I've made the decision, where do I put my time and energy to get my return on investment? You actually need to have done that to inform your decision. So I think that's the first really important thing, that we don't just go, hey, I think it'd be a good crack to renovate it. Now I'm going to work out exactly what I need to do. I think it needs to be flipped the other way. We need to work out the different scenarios of renovation and the different levels of renovation, and then work out which one is going to provide the best return on investment, which leads into the second part of your question, Phil, because not every level of renovation is going to get you the same return on your dollar in, because it very much depends on, one, condition of property, two, your level of skill, three, what the market is demanding and what the market are paying for the most for your property type in your area. Because I firmly believe we don't just have one property market in Australia. We have like microspheres of property markets all around the country, and we have pockets in suburbs that will demand different levels of finish and that will demand different ways of living in the space depending on who the target market is. So, the old adage of just paint and floor, in some levels, that's great, depending on who your market you're renovating for is. But in other levels, you'll actually, you will, instead of overcapitalizing, you will undercapitalize. So for me, there isn't one size fits all at all when it comes to renovating to create wealth in our country. Because one, the price points of our properties around the nation are so drastically different, as are the markets that we're renovating for.
So who's responsible for Australia's love affair with renovating? And to your point, for those people that want to renovate because they love renovating, they soon work out that it's not as glamorous as what they think, and they'll probably only ever do that once. But, everyone thinks they're a renovator. Maybe it's the empowerment, right? Like every single person can shape or change or get a different outcome to their property, whether they're an occupied investor through renovating. Maybe it's the only chance people actually get to make a decision on stuff. I don't know. It's bonkers.
It's really interesting you bring that up, because it's something that I talk to with my trade team about quite a bit, because, we'll often get called in to help when someone's had a crack at a renovation, because, I do believe, and you know what, I'm sure they're entertaining. I don't particularly watch them, but I'm sure they are entertaining. But reality TV renovation shows, I think, have a lot to answer for when it comes to, I think it's wonderful that they inspire. I think it's wonderful that they empower people, but at the same time, it's not necessarily a realistic portrayal of what a reno site looks like, nor the things that can go wrong, nor the injuries that can be, incurred whilst you're doing it. Or one of the big things in our country, our materials in our country are skyrocketing. Timber's nearly doubled, steel's nearly doubled, which means our electrical cables nearly doubled. Most suppliers nowadays are only giving 5-day quotes. They're only viable for 5 days because our materials are skyrocketing. And our trades are very well paid in our country. And so one thing that I think is really difficult with reality TV shows is that it empowers, wonderful, it inspires, amazing, but it doesn't show the pitfalls. And with our materials and our trades costing so much, it does mean that mistakes are really expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, it is a very different environment as we sort of navigate COVID-19. Materials are more expensive because it's harder to get them to the country, so there's less of them, therefore positive pressure on price, which applies also to steel. Tradies are as busy as ever. There's been a lot of government stimulus into home building. Impossible to get. If you can get yourself a good tradie to start work tomorrow on your site, probably not a good tradie. There's a lot of traders out there. Not all of them are good, and no doubt, Naomi, you can talk to that. But just to what you've just painted, that picture there, right? To even do a cosmetic reno, even it's just get some paint and floorboards and new kitchen or whatever, you're going to be lining up for ages just to get access to the trades. You're going to be more expensive. So the question is, do you even worry about doing it for investment properties in this market? You just get your capital growth in the market to do all the heavy lifting for you and revisit potentially in 1 year or 2 years' time. Now, how do you go about helping investors make the assessment decision on whether it's worth renovating or not? And an extension to that, what to do?
Yeah, that is a really great question, because it is really important that you always start with the end in mind. So you mentioned, given the delay, given the expense at the moment, given how hard it is to get a good team of trades around you at the moment, especially immediately, the first thing that comes to mind there for me is, that's right. If you wake up tomorrow and say, I want to renovate next week, one, you haven't put enough planning into it. And two, realistically, it's not going to happen with a large team around you. It just won't. If that means for you carpet and paint, then go for it, because you'll more than likely get that over the line. But if it means truly adding value to a property, and nowadays, the value that you're usually squeezing into your property is around floor plan gain, I find, in adding additional functionality. So if someone's trying to make the decision about, do they renovate now or do they let the market do the heavy lifting for them and in a year revisit it? Those sorts of questions are the ones that need to be answered. I'm not pro-renovation in every circumstance. If you have a good way of predicting where your market's at and knowing how long you're going to be holding that property for, maybe it is a wait and see. Maybe it is I know I could get this amount of value. This is the time and energy put into it. This is the opportunity cost. This is the lifestyle cost. Let's face it. Oh, no, that's probably not a good example. I was going to say, if I could sit on a beach and drink champagne or renovate and drink champagne, I'd probably renovate and drink champagne. So that was going to be a bad example. But
I think just drinking champagne in general is the right way to go. But
I'm okay with champagne or gin. But where I'm heading with this is, if you have intention to sell that property in a year or you have intention to hold that property for 5, then that adds a completely different consideration to it. So it's not just about what you can add to that property and what the value might be. It's about how that will work for you. If you have intention of then renting it out for another 5 years, you'd need to really be assessing, what would my rental yield be in value increase? What would the value of the property be that I could maybe pull out in equity? Because you're not going to be realising it with cashing it in at sale because you plan on holding it. So it's not just about the property and it's not just about the value that you could possibly add to it. It's also about lifestyle, it's about time, and it's about your end game. Renovation has to contribute to your end game. Otherwise, you're purely doing it for Instagram glamour, really.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people out there doing it. Just while we're on champagne, there's a great Churchill quote. I don't know if you know it, Naomi. I could not live without champagne. In victory, I deserve it. In defeat, I need it. So no doubt for renovators, you get a bit of both there, but probably more winning than losing in renovating. But if you do overcapitalize, maybe a bit of a knock on the chin. I want to have a chat about, where do you prioritize renovation in this market? You said sort of floor space gains. We'll just go to a break beforehand. I'll stay with us, back in a moment.
Whether you're a seasoned property investor or about to buy your first property, finding the right investment property to buy in 2021 isn't easy. Why do it alone when you could partner with award-winning buyer's agent Paul Glossop? Over the last 10 years, Paul has helped hundreds of clients build multi-property portfolios. Paul's secret is finding off-market bargains that get snapped up before the general public even gets a sniff. Interested? Head to purepropertyinvestment.com today to schedule a strategy call with Paul Glossop.
Welcome back, everyone. Phil Tarrant, host of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm with Naomi Findlay, renovation expert. Remember, just as a reminder, it's out, it's there, it's ready. You've been asking for it for years. We've now made it available. The spreadsheet that we use here at Smart Property Investment to manage our own portfolio is available for you for download. This is a great initiative, and already there's people right across Australia getting access to this sheet. So this is the tool that I use to make sure I'm running our portfolio effectively. It looks at it from a debt level, a yield level, a P&L level, and also a balance sheet level. So go and check it out. It's the Smart Property Investment Portfolio spreadsheet. All you need to do is go to smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. You see on the homepage, it's a big thing that says download the Smart Property sheet. We've done this in conjunction with our friends over at Atlas Property Group. All you need to do is click on that button and you can download the spreadsheet there. Any questions at all around it, you're more than welcome to get in touch with us here at Smart Property Investment. You can email editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. It's all in there. It's all pretty self-explanatory. There's some example properties there. So all you need to do is fill in your numbers and you'll start getting a real-world picture on your portfolio. I hope you enjoy it. Remember, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Now, Naomi.
Yes.
What should you prioritize renovating in this market, and how do you know how much to spend? It's the question that every single person who's renovating thinks about. Some people base it on some sort of metric where for every dollar I spend, I need to get a $3 or $4 capital uplift. Some people will say you need to spend 10% of the value of the property. Some people will say just do kitchens and bathrooms. What do you do?
Yeah, look, I have to call complete rubbish on the percentage algorithm. I want to get that out because it's my most commonly asked question about, what percentage do I spend on my kitchen? What percentage do I spend on my bathroom? And the reason for that is the cost of a plumber when you're renovating a, $900,000 unit is the same cost of a plumber if you're renovating a $10 million house. And so to use a purely percentage metric will either see you trying to do a renovation with no money at all because your trades cost exactly the same amount regardless of the value of your property, or it will see you overspending on a renovation because you have a really highly valued property. So I would love everyone, and I know it's a really controversial comment, but I would love everyone to throw that whole percentage algorithm out of the country. Our values of our properties are way too diverse to put a blanket across it like that. For me, I love to work on a system where I look at 3 different plans of attack with a property. So what I think the market wants, so it has to be driven by market research, what I'm noticing they're paying for, or what I'm noticing that the property will be valued against comparable properties. Slightly less. So I'll pull back. I'll take, say, kitchens out of it, or I might take roof replacement out of it, and then slightly more plan where I'm going to that next level where I think I'm really nailing and really smashing the things that clients would want or that they would pay for. And then I literally do the math. It's really unsexy and unglamorous. I do the math of estimating exactly how much those renovations would cost and exactly the value that I think I would get for those 3 different levels of renovation. And whatever one offers me more money, that is the one that I'll do. Even if it's a less glamorous renovation and I may leave the really old kitchen, or I may leave the horrible front driveway, if it gets me more money. So I want people to understand that renovating for wealth is not about romance. It is about data. It's about analysis. It's about research, and it's about knowing your market. It goes without saying, though, that the standard things like paint and carpet are always, always in it, without doubt. And a lot of people always say, go the kitchens and go the bathrooms. I get it. But at the same time, they are 2 of your most expensive renovations that you could possibly do. You know, a really big kitchen, depending on how you did it, could see you out of pocket 30 or 40,000 nowadays. So yes, look at your kitchens and your bathrooms, even in a low-level reno, but it doesn't mean you have to demolish the entire thing. You really need to be looking at smart and clever ways to update elements of those spaces if you're looking to do it on a budget.
It's a good point, and the best outcome for investors is the best financial outcome. So how do you go, and it's really detachment, right? We're talking about these reality TV shows like The Block, which is all the romance of investing and the best soft furnishings, and look at this finish, and isn't it great? Wow, isn't this functional? So how do you, and maybe it's a practice or a learned discipline, detachment with the renovation, because you can always do more, but how do you know, or what do you use innately to stop?
Great question. So a lot of my mentees that I work with, they will come to me super excited because they saw something on TV the week before and they really want to put it into their reno. And it's really simple. So for me, budgets, when you're renovating for wealth, your budget is a fixed budget prior to demolition, and it is what it is. So my response to them when they bring me this amazing freestanding bath or this phenomenal new set of French doors that they'd like to put in is, okay, well, what are you going to lose out of the budget to insert that in? And if you can't lose something out of the budget, then how are you going to justify a decrease in your profit? Because it's as simple as that. And I think that serial renovators who at times have broke even or lost find it very, very easy to detach and very, very easy to lose the romance, because there is no romance in doing a 5, 6 week, 6 month renovation and making no money. And that can absolutely happen. That is not a scare tactic. It is absolutely viable that can happen if people do not do their research well and they do not detach.
There's a big difference, I think, also, and we probably should chat around it, this sort of romantic notion of investing and detaching from it versus, you know, you can get personal value out of renovating. Two very, very different things, right? The creativity and sort of working towards an end product. That's not romantic, but it's okay to feel good about doing a reno.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The feeling of achievement and the feeling of transformation, I get
satisfaction's the word I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. The satisfaction of painting a wall, or, last Wednesday I was repairing an old asbestos ceiling and it was so satisfying when I'd finished. I was so excited with the end product. That satisfaction is very, very different to being caught up in the emotion of the finishes you're installing. So you can get extreme satisfaction around the transformation that you can achieve and the wealth that you can generate. And also just going back to using your hands, being at slow pace and using your hands. So you're right. It's really important to acknowledge that, Phil, that there is extreme enjoyment. Otherwise, there's no way I would be carrying the scratches and scars and dents and injuries that I have from renovating. But it does not mean that you have to lose your focus, nor that you have to sacrifice your end goal.
And it sounds like renovating is as much mindset. There's a lot of these capabilities, and it can be very cathartic for people to renovate. Like, you've done it, I've done it, removing wallpaper off a wall was probably one of the worst jobs known to man. But when you actually get into it, it is cathartic, and you do get a lot of satisfaction with a job well done, right? And a lot of people use it for meditation sometimes.
It's nailing a floor. Like, it can be really, really exciting when you get to the end.
Yeah. But look, that said, if you've never done a renovation, find someone that's doing one, go on a building site, volunteer half of your Saturday to be the guy on the broom and cleaning tile shards out of a bathroom that's just been jackhammered, and you'll know pretty quickly what it's like to actually do renovation. If that doesn't work for you, you've got to work out pretty quickly, whether or not you want to be doing stuff yourself versus paying people to do it. Now, Naomi, we're talking about the cost of renovating and sort of maybe go to 101 type of stuff. So it's all about generating a profit or getting an outcome. An outcome, we'll chat about that in a moment. But there's mainly sort of three key costs, I would say, with renovating. One is your time. Two is everyone else's time. And the third thing would be the materials you use. And that's really base level stuff. A lot of people often forget the price in the first bit of that when they look at the cost of a renovation, your own personal time and what you could be doing. That's why personally, I really enjoy renovating, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of it, but I'm not going to give up my time on a weekend to spend time renovating. So, which means I've got to pay a little bit more of a premium to get other people to either project manage or do the work themselves. So when you're setting a budget as a property investor for renovating, how you said you've got to be outcomes orientated. So you've got to know what product you want to make and then work backwards from that. So where you do have flexibility is the materials you choose or how fast people can do their job. And that's how you can really manipulate the end result. Fast tradies, good tradies, is there certain materials you can use to make tradies faster, therefore keeps costs down? Gets quite complicated, doesn't it?
And look, there's a lot of different things you can do to save money. Fast tradies aren't always good tradies because they need to be able to do a good job. And does a fast tradie mean that they've cleaned up after themselves, or do you need to bring another tradie in and pay them to clean up after the fast tradie? So for me, it's around establishing a team that you trust implicitly and that do quality work, because we're all responsible for the work that we do in a renovation. Like, it's, not that you can do poor work and walk away. So for me, there's an extra level to those costs that you mentioned, though. There's also a lot of people forget all the hidden costs, such as, the tip fees, the site fences, the portaloos, those sorts of things really that can add up in a renovation as well. But for me, a lot of the money saving can be about the way your renovation runs once it has started. So, my current builder that I'm working with is notorious for only wanting to touch things once, because at 85 to 125 an hour for a builder, when they touch them twice, it's a really big expense. And so having a well thought out site, having a well laid out material stock, not having to move materials to keep your renovation going, they can be really, really clever ways to make sure that you're saving money. And for me, it's always about my most expensive people on a work site are the trades. And hence, every time they reach out their hand for a piece of material, it needs to be there for them. You never want your trades waiting on you returning a call. You never want them doing something that a $20 an hour labourer can do, nor do you ever want them waiting on materials. And I think that is key. That's 101 to making sure that a renovation runs smoothly.
Yeah, and there's a secret, and what you're talking about there is really good planning, really good.
Oh my God.
It's a project management job, having stuff available on site, not having to move materials 4 times because you need to move them to do something else. And experience does help a lot with this. But the faster renovation for property investors, the faster renovation is, the better it is, because of one specific reason, and that is another cost, which isn't wrapped up necessarily in trades or the work itself, but the holding costs for not having income in a property if you are renovating. So you're still paying for a mortgage during this period of time. So if a 4-week reno becomes a 4-month reno because of all those things we've spoken about, as in not getting the stock and not getting it on time and not getting the tradies and stuff, it can really blow out.
Oh, it can astronomically blow out. Money is cheap at the moment, which is great, but it is still an additional cost. And it's not necessarily about the cost of the interest, it's the opportunity cost of what you could have earned on that property if it was finished.
Very good. Now, let's talk about profit, because that's why I think we've said, demystify the romanticism around renovating property investments, because you're doing it for a purpose. And for most people, that will mean 99.9% of people will be to somehow get some more dollars in their back pocket. We'll just go to another break, back in a moment.
Are low interest rates impacting on your investment returns? It's time to rethink. Rethink Investing creates wealth for clients through the strategic purchase of positively geared, high cash flow commercial property. Industrial properties, retail assets, or office spaces can be a smart investment option that produces significant and long-term return on investment. Rethink your investment options and look to commercial property. Learn more at rethinkinvesting.com.au. Rethink Investing, Australia's #1 commercial buyers agency.
Welcome back, everyone. Phil Tarrant, host of the Smart Property Investment Show of Naomi Findlay. We're talking renovations now. How do you constitute or realise a profit in property investment? Do you always need to sell a property after a renovation to realise that value, or is there other ways, Naomi?
Look, for me, there's upfront 3 very easy, simple ways that you can realise the value of your renovation. Obviously, you can sell it, cash out, get the money and run. That's an obvious one. The second one is that the extra value that you add to the property can then be leveraged in the form of equity to pull out either a cash loan or equity to go again on a different property. And the third very obvious one, is obviously increased rental yield. So they're the 3 ones. People often mistake, especially if they already hold property and they're not wanting to sell it. They're like, why would I sell it? I'm in a rising market. It doesn't necessarily have to always be about clean flipping. Renovating for wealth and creating wealth in renovating can be multiple ways.
I imagine the market will largely dictate which sort of strategy is best in a market which is hot. If you can buy at X and reprice it at Y and sell it in a rising market, that might be great. But whether or not you want to do that in this market, because it seems to have still got some legs to run into it, you're going to need to make those decisions. How do you sort of help make those calls? Do you speak to real estate agent, property managers and go, hey, if I do this, what will I be able to rent it for? Or if I do this, will you be able to sell it?
Yep. Part of your team around you when you're renovating to create wealth, without doubt, it isn't just about your trades. It's about your consultants and it's about your local experts. You will obviously need to become a local expert when you are wanting to get into creating wealth in renovating, but you do need other experts around you to help check and validate the data and analysis that you're undertaking. So it is about buyer's agents, it's about real estate agents and property experts in the patch that you're renovating in, because they will be able to either validate or give advice and feedback on the numbers that you're using for your analysis. Is that too high a rental yield that I'm expecting? Do you think I'd be able to sell for this with this level of finish? So without doubt, part of your consultants around you, they need to be able to inform that, as well as it needs to also fit into the bigger jigsaw puzzle of your overall wealth planning vision. Property may be just one single part of that. And so working with your accountants and your financial planners around how will the sale of this or how will the holding of this affect my overall situation? Because there's no use, making a beautiful profit on a renovation that you flipped only to find out because of the way you're structured or because of other things that are going on in your overall estate that you're going to lose a pile of it for some reason. So it really does take a team, a lot of brains. And, I'm a massive fan of the statement that I always want to be the least clever person in the room when it comes to my business.
Yeah. And what you explained there, a lot of people are going, well, that's a lot of different themes there. We do roll about it on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, but that a key person as part of any of this needs to be speaking to an accountant before you even start doing anything.
Oh my gosh.
Because, you make all your money and then you lose it all through ineffective tax structures. And look, we're all proud Australians. We love to pay our taxes and see this great nation move forward. But an accountant will help you be as effective with cash as possible, because the more you can retain, the more you can use to do other stuff. And guess what? You're helping to stimulate the economy in that way as well, because tradies are getting paid and they want to buy jet skis and utes, not to what's the best way to keep a tradie sweet? Just a bacon and egg roll in the morning and a coffee? Case of beer and a Friday arvo?
Pay immediately.
Yep.
That's the biggest one. The amount of tradies that do not get paid, literally, people just do not pay them, is an absolute disgrace in our country.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a disgrace. Pay immediately. Get the invoice. And if the work's completed and you're happy, check that before you get the invoice. Once you get it, pay immediately. That's 101. The second one is be really, really kind, Phil. Like, be kind. Be a kind human. Third one would be, without doubt, feed them. And the fourth one would be communicate. You know what? They might all be great talkers, but they're running businesses too. And they need planning time and they need to be able to communicate. And, you know, the more that you communicate, the more you plan, the more money they make, the more money I make, everyone's happy. Yeah. Remember that when they're making money, I'm happy when I'm making money.
That's good. I think the first one is absolutely key. If you want to get the best traders in the land, if you're the person that pays them first, guess what? When you call them up saying, hey, I've got an emergency job, I need this done, can you be there tomorrow? They're going to go, sure, no problem.
Exactly.
The other person gets the call saying, oh, we can't make it there today because of something's happened. It's raining somewhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's cool. Hey, so you're on location at the moment up in the Hunter Valley, or you're doing a lot of sort of farm stuff at the moment. Tell us about that.
Yeah, look, it is a passion of mine and has been for about 2.5 years now, where I'm really loving working with farms, so regional and quite rural and remote farms, all about finding the hidden wealth that are in their properties. So helping them not only with their homesteads, but their barns and their meat lockers and all different parts of their properties, and ways that they're either been traditional farmers that have been on the land for quite some time, or people that have bought farms. A lot of people are buying farms in the last couple of years. So it's about working out with them where their return on their investment is for putting money into their farms and how they can monetize different structures and elements of their farms.
Very cool. That sounds
cool.
interesting. Yeah, I might have a chat about that at some point. But
sounds good.
Naomi, thanks for your time today. All very good. All makes a lot of sense. There is so many ways not to get it wrong in renovating, even though people still blow their dough. So don't be one of them. Remember to check out smartpointinvestment.com. There's heaps of information there. We'll chat again soon, Naomi. Thanks for your time.
Sounds good, Phil. Thank you.
Nice one. I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. Remember, social media, you can find us at Smart Property HQ. If you're not yet subscribing to Smart Property Investment, you can do it on the website, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. So the first thing I was going on property, so you can make more informed investing decisions any given time. We'll be back again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.
Bluestone makes investment loans simple with competitive interest rates. Borrow up to 85% of the value of your investment property without paying lender's mortgage insurance, and no cap on existing investment portfolio size. Plus, personal Bluestone support from application to settlement. So don't wait to unlock your future. Bluestone, award-winning home loan solutions. Find out more at bluestone.com.au/investors. Lending criteria, T's and C's and fees apply. Credit provided by Permanent Custodians Limited, Australian Credit Licence 390183.